BBC Sounds.
So before you listen to your podcast, do something a bit different.
Yep, listen to the most petty and ill-informed podcast available. It's Off the Ball. It's on BBC Sounds.
The Scottish Football Podcast.
From BBC Radio Scotland.
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast with me, Liam McLeod, here with BBC Sports Scotland, the 29th of August. It is Tuesday and we are sitting here in Eindhoven, the Dutch city, where Rangers will be facing PSV in the second leg of their Champions League playoff on Wednesday evening. Big night for the Rangers supporters, for the Rangers players, for the club generally, of course, as they look to try and make inroads towards the group stage. Again, it's something they managed last year. You might remember after the 2-2 draw at Ibrox, they came out here and won 1-0 in the second leg, thanks to that Antonio Colak goal. Remember, you can subscribe at BBC Sounds. We're with you every single day, and on match days you will get the post-match reaction from whatever game it is that we are covering that evening. And it is a busy week of European action. We'll have a little look at Thursday's ties in the Europa League and Conference League playoffs a little later. I'm joined here in Eindhoven by the former Rangers striker Steven Thompson. How are we, Steven?
Very well, thank you, Liam. How are you?
I'm okay. I've got a touch of the hay fever,
And
but as you know, I don't moan. So
You don't, and you've not ironed your t-shirt either.
no, I haven't. But as I said to you earlier, I don't necessarily need to iron. The creases will just fall out naturally in the next hour. So
Right,
don't
okay.
you worry. Don't you concern yourself with that.
Right, okay.
Yeah, we're also, by the way, no pressure, we're also filming this podcast today.
Yes, I've
because
noticed that.
I think our colleagues are hopeful you're going to say something interesting for once.
I think
and they're going to
there's
stick it on social
absolutely
media.
no chance that will happen.
Well, it's odds on, but you never know. So here we are. It's very pleasant here. The conditions are favourable, I think it's fair to say. Similar day, I think, tomorrow. It's not going to be the searing heat that the Rangers players had in Geneva in the last round. How finely poised is this tie after the 2-2 draw last week in Glasgow?
Well, it's obviously very finely poised with the scoreline. I think that the advantage goes to PSV with the home crowd, with their own stadium. Having been here last year, it's a brilliant stadium and it's it's fairly partisan, to say the least. So it'll be a very difficult task for Rangers. I think, they come into it, for me now, as underdogs to go through the tie. However, if you look to last year, it was a very similar situation and Rangers managed to get through the tie and get into the Champions League. It's going to take a monumental effort because as much as, for me, the last 20 minutes of the performance at Ibrox last Tuesday night was good, Rangers started to really show what they were all about. They got a wee bit of confidence. For the first spell in the game, I felt as though PSV really dominated with the ball, but without creating too many opportunities, big opportunities. They caused Rangers a lot of problems down the left-hand side. I felt as though James Tavernier wasn't able to get forward as much in the match as usual, certainly in that first half. On the right-hand side, Bakayoko again caused problems. But Rangers kind of rode out that storm, if you like, and into the second half, I felt as though the performance improved dramatically. It's going to be so difficult because you're expecting PSV to come right out the traps with the home crowd and get right after Rangers. They have to show a real resilience and they have to defend very, very well indeed, which I thought the two centre-halves did in the first tie. I thought that Suter and Connor Goldson were excellent in that first leg. It's going to be difficult, but it is certainly not impossible.
Yeah, they'll need their big players to perform well on the stage on Wednesday evening. There's no question about that. And Todd Cantwell was another one who impressed. He certainly put himself about. I think he covered just about every blade of grass at Ibrox last week. Well, the Rangers manager Michael Beale has been holding his media conference in Eindhoven at the stadium ahead of this huge match. Let's take a listen in to see what he's had to say.
The other team needs to be confident. They're in their home stadium and the first game was a draw. We don't read too much into that. We know that we have to perform, I feel, better than we performed last week if we want to go through. This team is due a big performance, so it's there. The opportunity for us is clear. You have to take your opportunities when they come. I believe that this is a game where both teams will have opportunities, and it's the team that's the most decisive that will go through. And the motivation for this game is equal as last year. I don't see it being any bigger on both sides. I think there's been a lot read into that, but the group of players that are going out there, the prize of getting to the Champions League is enough.
I'm trying to remember about last year's game, and obviously in a match like this you're going to have to ride your luck at times, and Rangers did last year, but they got a clean sheet. They won 1-0. Cholak got the only goal. It was a mistake in defence, and I think, having covered PSV last week, having done the tie last season, that defensively they're there to be got at. I think that much is true.
That's the other side of it, Liam, when you think about the game. I think the Rangers are going to have to absorb an awful lot of pressure. They're going to be under pressure for large spells in the game. PSV will have a lot of the ball in Rangers' final third. If they can do that side of the game well enough, if they can, then I do think that they're capable of scoring. I think that when you look at the team that finished the game last week, when Matondo had come on, for me he had a big impact, not just because of his goal, but because of his threat that he poses with his pace, running in behind. It certainly kind of unsettled PSV. Whether or not Michael Beale wants to start with him is a different question. Whether he brings him on as a weapon in the last 30 minutes or so, I'm not expecting too many changes from the lineup.
Because last week he kind of kept faith with the team that started in Geneva. I think there was just the one change from memory. So that was Dessers
Danilo
and
for
Sima.
Dessers. Yeah. Well, I mean, he's preferred Dessers these last couple of games. Again, I'm still not overly convinced. I suppose he gives you a more physical outlet, and when you've not got the ball and you need to get up the pitch, maybe he'll be able to hold it up better than the likes of Danilo would. I think the jury's certainly out on the strikers at the minute at Rangers. It'd be a great moment for one of them to step up, certainly, and really make a name for themselves, because it would be obviously a very important goal if they were to score tomorrow night.
Saw Kemar Roof score in Dingwall on Saturday.
Yes.
He's unavailable. He's not in the squad for this Champions League playoff. Could have been a useful weapon, to be fair. But if Rangers can negotiate this tie as they did last year, how big will this be for Michael Beale personally as Rangers manager, do you think?
Huge, and it's a massive week for Michael Beale, the biggest week of his Rangers
Celtic
career.
come on Sunday,
Yeah, I mean, it's just so big. If he can get through this tie, it's just so big for the club in terms of finance, in terms of prestige for the supporters. Being there at the Champions League last year at the time felt brilliant for the Rangers fans, but that was very quickly erased with the performances and the humiliation of what happened.
It was kind of crazy that, because when you think back to they beat PSV 1-0, kept a clean sheet, professional performance. They then came back to the Netherlands a couple of weeks later to play Ajax in Amsterdam and were absolutely battered.
They were. We knew that it was going to be a difficult group for Rangers, but I don't think anybody thought that they would struggle quite as much as they did. If you look at the performances and the scorelines throughout that group, so it was an embarrassment. If they were to reach there this time, you'd like to think they would give a better account of themselves and maybe have a more favourable group. The group was quite a hard group, but they've got to get through tomorrow night's game first and foremost, and as I said, it's going to be really, really tough, but I think they're capable of winning the game, but they're going to have to play as well as better than they've done at any stage so far this season with this new group of players.
Can you see them keeping a clean sheet?
I'm not sure I can, but I can see them scoring. So it really just then depends on how many they can score and how many they do concede, but I do think PSV will score. It's a hard one to call, but if I was being brutally honest, I'd say, I'm favouriting PSV at the minute just purely because of the home tie. And they have an awful lot of quality players. They've got better players than Rangers in their squad at this stage.
The Dutch teams that are in qualifying action for the European tournaments were given the weekend off there. So while Rangers were going up to the Highlands to beat Ross County, it was a really good performance. I don't think County troubled them once or twice, but it was a pretty comfortable afternoon for them. How much will that come into it, do you think?
I don't think had it been a Tuesday game, maybe a wee bit more, but I think they have enough time to recover. It's not ideal. Obviously PSV have had over a week by the time tomorrow comes round to look at the first game, dissect it and work out a plan of what they want to do. They've also had the freshness in the legs. For Rangers, they had to immediately switch their focus to Ross County, which they dealt with very professionally. It was a really good performance, which could have been potentially a very difficult game for them. So the focus would have immediately switched after that game, recovery, and on to Wednesday evening. They would have had a couple of days to get ready for the game, and they will be ready. I don't think there's any question of fatigue in the legs, and they'll be prepared, and they'll know what's coming, because what's coming is going to be a very aggressive attacking performance from PSV. The manager spoke after the first game last Tuesday night.
A good presser, wasn't it?
It was a good presser. I enjoyed the Dutch journalists' questions. They were good.
They got stuck into him.
They did. You don't see that as much here, giving Tom English a bit of stick for not being quite as outlandish with his questions. But they did get stuck into them, and they were asking, for as much dominance as you had, certainly in that first half, and as much of the ball you had, why didn't you create more goal scoring opportunities? A large part of that goes down to Rangers and to the way they defended. Just to reiterate, tomorrow night they're going to have to defend as well as they have done at any period this season, if not better. The concentration levels need to be through the roof, the organisation, but they are capable of doing it. It's just, can they do it for 90 minutes? And I think that's been one of the other questions that's been raised so far this season about Rangers. They've played kind of in fits and starts. They've looked impressive, then they've looked not so impressive, and I suppose maybe Saturday against Ross County was their most impressive 90-minute performance, where they controlled the game for large periods of the match.
Malik Tillman, could he come on at some point? It would be his debut, I think, if he was to come on against Rangers, having had that big impact in the second leg last year. It would be. It wouldn't surprise you if he did come on and made that impact. No,
it wouldn't. But I mean, I think Malik Tillman's going to find it difficult to get in that side. In midfield, they have so many real top players. He's going to find it difficult to slot in there somehow. But it wouldn't surprise me if he did come on in the game. It depends how the game's going, of course. I thought for Rangers, Malik Tillman showed flashes of brilliance. On occasion, he looked really good. Other occasions, I thought he looked disinterested. For me, he looked like he plays when he wants to, when things are going well for him, be worth his weight in gold. But when you've got to dig in, I didn't feel as though I got that impression that he was, there to put a graft in. But we'll see how he does. I mean, obviously, he's a quality player.
The stadium, the Philips Stadion, which isn't too far from where we're sat just now, it's a wonderful atmosphere.
Brilliant.
I remember it last year. It was absolutely buzzing. Rangers silenced that atmosphere with that goal. But that could be an extra man for PSV and their players on Wednesday evening. You've played in some of these big stadiums and big matches, Champions League games, cup finals, playoffs, at Wembley, which you never talk about. What's it like dealing with that kind of scenario, particularly if you're away from home in a hostile atmosphere?
Yeah, I mean, I think firstly, the bonus for Rangers is that a lot of these players, well, at least a good number of them, and certainly the experienced players in the squad, Tavernier, Goldson, etc., Jack, were here last season. So it doesn't come as a surprise to them. You know what you're going into. You're used to playing in pressure situations. You're used to playing against teams that have big supports away from home. And the PSV support will be, if it's anything like it was last year, there'll be flares going off, there'll be a delay to the start of kick-off due to smoke in the pitch.
And they're wanting revenge this time.
Well, they are wanting revenge. But I think deep down in the back of their mind, they probably felt as though last season we should be winning this game, and the regrets that they have from that, they want to put right this time round. But they'll also know that Rangers can pose them problems, and Rangers also won't be a pushover. So as much as the press and the people of Eindhoven will be building the game up, we should be winning this game, and it's a game. I read a small snippet the other day, we totally dominated the game, etc, etc. Yeah, okay, but you didn't score in the first half when you were dominant, and Rangers on the counter-attack posed them problems, and I do feel as though that can be the case again tomorrow night. And from set plays, I think Rangers can cause them problems.
Not that the players will be caring, but obviously this match is worth so much money to both clubs. Rangers looking to get back into the group stage of the Champions League. Having been there last season, it was a sobering experience for them. They're going to be hoping to get back in and make more of an impact. The PSV coach Peter Bosz was certainly very entertaining in his post-match presser after the match at Ibrox last Tuesday evening. He's been speaking to the media ahead of the second leg.
I'm always full of confidence, and we showed already this season that we can play good. We have individual players who can side a game. Therefore, I have a lot of confidence. But on the other hand, we saw what is Rangers capable of. So we have a lot of respect for the opponent, and we must be really focused and play at 100% to finally win this game tomorrow. But I think if both teams don't make mistakes, it will be 0-0. These kind of games are the best games you can play or manage. And so let's enjoy and hopefully we win this game.
PSV Eindhoven against Rangers is live on Sports Sound and BBC Radio Scotland, on digital and online at the website bbc.co.uk/Sports Scotland. Wednesday evening kicks off at 9 p.m. local, so 8 p.m. UK time kick-off for the big match. And then on Thursday evening, the night after, 3 Scottish clubs in action. Of course, Hibs 5-0 down when they go to Birmingham to take on Aston Villa. Tie over. Is that fair to say? Just
you don't need
bringing
to
back one of
one
of your
faux pas, one of my many faux pas.
less good bits of last season's coverage, shall we say. Hibs, I mean, it's such a difficult game. Lee Johnson's gone.
Aye.
David Gray's in caretaker
I don't know
charge.
how they approach it.
It's-
I really don't. I mean, I don't know what I would do if I was David Gray, because the following game obviously is away to Aberdeen, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Another tough game. You know, they're staring down the possibility of 4 straight defeats at the start of the league, which really would be unthinkable for a team of Hibs' size and the amount of investment.
So they could be doing without this game in Birmingham, basically, this week.
100%. Well,
Yeah.
5-0 down. So I'd be tempted to not play my team that I was going to play on the game against Aberdeen, and you know you're going to lose, right? So just go down and
I can see what you're saying, but then you don't want to go down the line of record defeats.
But you play your full strength
could
team
happen anyway,
and you get pumped 6-0. You know, what sort of confidence does that give you going into Sunday's game against Aberdeen? It's a finely balanced thing. I don't know. I'm interested to see how David Gray approaches it. I suppose you've got to just enjoy the experience. I mean, if it was me as a player and you're 5-0 down, there's no pressure because you're out to tie, right? So you can go down there and say, right, I'm going to be playing in this brilliant stadium, which it is, you know, a packed European game, a great experience, an experience that most of them will never get again, playing against Premier League teams. So just go down and really enjoy it.
So we'll have updates of that one. That's in the Conference League playoff second leg. Hibs 5-0 down. Hearts, also in the Conference League, go to Thessaloniki in Greece to take on
Good
PAOK.
pronunciation.
If it's right, it is. They're 2-1 down, very much in the tie, but that's going to be a huge challenge for them as well to go to
Massive.
Greece, and the atmosphere there will be something else, I would have thought.
Yeah, I've seen footage of the stadium during, before and after matches, and it'll definitely be an eye-opener for most of these players to play in that type of atmosphere. I thought the game was very finely balanced against PAOK. I didn't think that they were any much better than Hearts were.
Could have been 2-1 the other way.
Hearts really unfortunate with Shanks' finish, great finish, and it was just marginally offside. Very fine margins, but I don't know. It seems like a real uphill task for Hearts to go away to such a difficult venue and get a result.
So that's going to be live, PAOK against Hearts on Sports Sound, BBC Radio Scotland, again on Thursday evening, and also on Thursday evening coverage on the radio and on the telly of Aberdeen against Häcken in the second leg for a place in the Europa League. 2-2 after the first leg in Gothenburg last week. Aberdeen really good in the last 20 minutes in Sweden. Last week maybe 30 minutes of the game. Woeful on Sunday. We were both at the match in Paisley against St Mirren. They got a draw. That's all that matters when you look back at that result in the years to come. The performance will not come into it, but they're going to have to play a heck of a lot better if they're going to get through to the Europa League groups.
Joking. If they play like they did against St Mirren, they're out. Yeah, I mean, I think for the last 20 minutes of the Häcken game, they showed a lot of character because they looked kind of dead and buried, and to come back into the game and play as well as they did was impressive. However, we were both at the game against St Mirren on Sunday there, and I can honestly say I've not seen as bad an Aberdeen performance in a long, long time. I'm not sure if I've ever seen a worse Aberdeen performance. So I know it's, you know, there's new players and they're balancing as all the clubs are that are in Europe, the league games with the European games. Hearts obviously struggled at the weekend up at Dundee, but if they replicate that performance, then there's absolutely no chance to win the game. I think with the home crowd, is it a sellout at Pittodrie?
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
so a sold out Pittodrie with the Aberdeen fans backing them. I do think that Aberdeen will go through.
They made their 12th signing of the summer today, Tuesday. Papa Habib Gay has arrived on a 3-year deal from the Belgian side, KV Kortrijk. So that's another new signing for Aberdeen, 6'2"
12th
striker.
signing, did you say?
12, yeah.
That's
There
interesting.
have been outgoings as well, obviously, over the summer, and I think there'll be a couple of outs this week as well in the build-up to the transfer window, and I think there will be more, at least one more arrival at Pittodrie. We await and see. But it's a big night of European action, obviously. As I said there, it's PSV Rangers on Wednesday evening, and then Aston Villa Hibs, Aberdeen Hacken and PAOK Hearts to come on Thursday evening. Full coverage on BBC Scotland. And as I say, the Scottish Football Podcast is with you every day. For now, bye-bye.
The Scottish Football Podcast.
From BBC Radio Scotland.
A reminder, Behind the Goals with me, Rachel Corsey and Leanne Crichton is now available every Tuesday. Make sure you tune in every week for all things women's football and plenty of special guests. Just search Behind the Goals on BBC Sounds.
BBC Sounds.